When addressing his fellow cardinals on the 18th of April 2005, Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger had this to say: "Today, having a clear faith based on the creed of the Church is often labelled as fundamentalism, whereas relativism, that is, letting oneself be tossed here and there, carried about by every wind of doctrine, seems the only attitude that can cope with modern times. We are building a dictatorship of relativism that does not recognize anything as definitive, and whose ultimate goal consists solely of one's own ego and desires." That won him the chair of Peter a few days later. Those who have the courage to speak out nowadays are relatively few, but there is nothing new under the sun. King Boleslaus the Cruel was of dissolute life, and the brave Bishop Stanislaus had the courage to say so. He wasn't amused. And in 1079, the saint paid for it with his life, and he's now the patron of Poland and powerful in his intercession for that very Catholic country, which has stood out as a beacon of light in an ever-darkening Europe, from which of course came another bright light, a gift to the Church of our time, St. John Paul II. We think that both John Paul II and Benedict XVI may well one day be declared doctors of the Church. It could happen, along with Newman, who also saw things very clearly. With regard to relativism, it's out there, and it seems to be a new orthodoxy, even actually in sectors of church life. All is up for grabs, when actually it's not. And to maintain that line is to be self-destructive. The Catholic Church hangs on to the very fact that it has a teacher, of which she herself is the mouthpiece. She doesn't speak for herself. She says what the Word, the incarnate Word, the everlasting Word ever says, for truth is truth and is not relative. This day, it came to me quietly in prayer how we have to do with power, the power of that same Alpha and Omega. As in the case of those who are cast aside and classed as whatever they are by all those who are out there, so in the case of the Word incarnate, he was finished with on Calvary, and the civilized world thought to get on with its business. Well, it had another thing coming. The Holy Shroud conveys the message of one who has had it. Blood and torment, torture and anguish, but the napkin that was on his head, it's now at Manopelo, captures the moment of the beginning of the end. If we look at this carefully, we see the moment of waking up from sleep. The eyes are just opening, and the first breath of a living body is being sucked in. I have conquered. And this is the voice of the one with whom we have to do. And we can be fairly clear about this. His judgment is not as relative as we might like to think. I was looking also at another picture which is of man's creation, but surely inspired, and which portrays it very well. If one looks at this carefully, one sees that the moment of appearing to the disciples has been well captured. This now is no longer in the tomb, but in the upper room. And we see, if we look carefully at the expression, the mouth is actually almost smiling, but with great dignity. And we have in this moment of time well captured that unsaid word, which might be translated into modern terms as "we did it, ce l'abbiamo fatto." It's the serene look of the cosmic conqueror, and this is the one with whom we have to do. Questo è il momento della vittoria, la serenità di quello che ha vinto, è confidente e sereno. Abbiamo noi la vittoria. Stavo citando la parola di Ratzinger prima dell'elezione sua come pontefice, quando parlava ai suoi cardinali, indicando che si ha da fare con una dittatura di relativismo, e lui fu in conseguenza eletto sommo pontefice dopo, perché i cardinali volevano qualcuno che sapesse guidare. Oggi sono poche le voci che sanno guidare. Anche nella vita politica si segue una nuova norma. Non è una cosa nuova. Il santo di questo giorno ha saputo fare il contrario. San Stanislao ha criticato il re Boleslao il crudele, si dice, per la sua vita come era non tanto edificante, e fu martirizzato nel 1079 di conseguenza. Adesso patrono della Polonia, un paese cattolico, malgrado tutta la persecuzione comunista e altro. Chiediamo la grazia anche noi di saper ascoltare quello che insegna, non le voci umane, e di essere anche noi sereni nelle mani che hanno conquistato il cosmo con due chiodi. Ubi caritas et amor, ubi caritas Deus tibi est, ubi caritas et amor, ubi caritas
Deus tibius, ubi caritas et amor, ubi caritas Deus tibius.
Act of consecration of the human race to the Sacred Heart of Jesus by His Holiness Pope Leo XIII. Most sweet Jesus, Redeemer of the human race, look down upon us, humbly prostrate before thine altar. We are thine, and thine we wish to be. But to be more surely united with thee, behold, each one of us freely consecrates himself today to thy most sacred heart. Many indeed have never known thee. Many too, despising thy precepts, have rejected thee. Have mercy on them all, most merciful Jesus, and draw them to thy sacred heart. Be thou King, O Lord, not only of the faithful who have never forsaken thee, but also of the prodigal children who have abandoned thee. Grant that they may quickly return to their father's house, lest they die of wretchedness and hunger. Be thou King of those who are deceived by erroneous opinions, or whom discord keeps aloof, and call them back to the harbour of truth and unity of faith, so that soon there may be but one flock and one shepherd. Grant, O Lord, to thy church assurance of freedom and immunity from harm. Give peace and order to all nations, and make the earth resound from pole to pole with one cry. Praise to the divine heart that wrought our salvation. To it be glory and honour forever. Amen.
Amen.